You will never be perfect. Ever, 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 and you should never expect to be. And nobody around you should expect you to be perfect either. But you can always increase the quality of your imperfection, aka you can make mistakes in a more aligned way.
Everything in life is relative, so in a way, all of us are perfect and imperfect simultaneously, and that's the thing that I think is so fascinating. Perfectly imperfect.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode number 1306, One Reason Many of Us Get Burnt Out. Today, happy Saturday, for episode number 1307, you need the permission to be imperfect. So we talked about permission maybe last week or the week before, but I think it's important to contextually put it into specifics. Contextually specifics. Big words here in the beginning. We had our team call on Wednesday, and I think I talked about that in the last episode as well. But what happens is we do a most important win and a most important improvement for everybody on the team. And it usually gets pretty vulnerable, and there's emotions there, and because people are growing, right? Everybody on the team is growing at their own personal speed in their own personal way, and a lot of the growth is the hard growth, the internal growth, the relationship growth, the love growth. But we got to me. I go second to last, and then Alan goes after me. And my most important improvement was I need to start posting on social media again. Like, I suck. I haven't been posting on social media nearly as much as I used to. I mean, I didn't miss a day for a long time. And then between the event and the business growing and all that stuff, I've just been burning down behind the scenes. And Alan said something very powerful after that. He said, well, I want to give everybody in here the permission to be imperfect. I want everybody to have the understanding that, yes, normally I'm going to push you to be better and better and better and better and better. But I understand we are all in a season right now of transition, of overwhelm, of rebuilding. And I think it's just, sometimes it's hard to give yourself that. I do believe that is something I am good at, like giving myself the grace of like, look, Kev, just get what you can done today and let's just show up tomorrow. Sometimes I feel like I'm treading water. So I do think I'm actually pretty good at that because I've had to get good at that over the last 6 years. But I think just if you're out there, it's this interesting thing where, and again, this isn't everybody's experience, but we've talked to a lot of listeners. It's this interesting thing where at some point in your journey, you don't believe in yourself. And when you don't believe in yourself, it's kind of easy to let yourself off the hook because you don't believe you can do it anyway. Eventually, you start to believe in yourself, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago. And when you start to believe in yourself, then you hold yourself more accountable. But it's almost like when you go from 100% permission to be imperfect to 100% non-permission. You have to be perfect all the time, no matter what. You have to make progress. You have to be better. You hold yourself to a higher standard. It's almost like we jump from one polarity to the other polarity. I think with the ultimate goal of you being able to say, look, the amount of feedback I give myself should be based on the amount of things I'm going through in life. And I think that's an interesting, important thing to try to balance, harmonize, as Alan would say. Because if you are, this is a good example. Taryn loves asking couples their best piece of marriage advice. Even before we were married, she would do that. That's just one thing she loves doing. And two of my clients came to Next Level Live. Shout out to Chad and Linnell, the sweetest. They're amazing. They've been married for 20 years. And she asked them, what's the one thing? Like, if you could just give me one thing, what would it be? And I don't know if it was Chad or Linnell that said this, but they said, you have to understand that there are like longer seasons of imperfection. And this is the example he used. He said when Linnell's, I don't know if it was her mom or her dad that passed away, but Chad said she like reclused. She just reclused. And she was struggling to just show up as a partner. She wasn't a perfect partner by any stretch of the imagination. She was very imperfect, but I had to give her the permission to be imperfect because she was dealing with her own stuff. And I just think that's an important lesson for all of us, where there are days you're going to wake up and you're going to kick ass and you're going to be able to do 100% of 100% of 100%. And you're going to feel like you're making all the momentum in the world. There are other days where you're going to have to give yourself permission to be imperfect. Last thing I will say. Friend of ours, Tori Aletto, started a podcast a while ago. She decided against continuing it. But when we were coming up with a name of her podcast, I came up with The Imperfect Person. We were coming up with, should it be the Tori Aletto Show? What should it be? The NY Therapist Show? And I said, Tori, in your bio, it says Imperfect Person. That's what it says in your bio. It says that about you. And that's how you show up. You show up if it's messy or perfect. And I said, I think that's what we should call it. We should call it The Imperfect Person. The reason is you're giving people, someone who everybody probably thinks has it all figured out. You're literally saying, look, I know it looks like I have it all figured out, but I am an imperfect person just like you. And I think that's important for people to understand. And that's the title we ended up going with. So that connects nicely to this episode.
I want to use this as an opportunity to try to articulate something that I think is very difficult to understand. And I've been thinking a lot about duality lately, and duality means being in shape, but also not as good as you could be, but also better than you used to be. Those are dualities. You have to hold duality in your consciousness. Human beings can do that. I don't know how many human beings are often doing that, and that's been something I've been contemplating a lot lately. But can Kevin be in shape and out of shape simultaneously? It depends. It's all relative. I was thinking about this earlier. Relativity. 60 miles an hour is so fast for a horse, but it's not fast for a Ferrari. The car, Ferrari. Although Ferrari, I think, is a horse. I don't know. But what is a Ferrari? Is it an animal?
Ferrari, I'm sure it's probably an Italian word. I'll look it up while you're speaking.
Okay, thank you. So everything in life is relative. So in a way, all of us are perfect and imperfect simultaneously. And that's the thing that I think is so fascinating. Perfectly imperfect. What is perfect? What would that even look like? Would the perfect book cover, the perfect symmetry, the perfect physique, and it's all subjective based on our own experience. That's what art is. Is this podcast perfect? To some people, it's perfect. It's the best podcast. To other people, it's not even good enough to listen to. And so whose opinion do you look at? Whose perspective do you look at? And I think the only thing that you can really do in life is pick for yourself what you're going for, knowing that that's your version of perfect that you'll never get to, but that you'll always strive to getting to. It's like a fascinating thing. I mean, when will Kevin and I have the perfect podcast?
Yesterday.
Yesterday, right? You could never, but never. Also always, in a way. And I was actually concerned. I don't know if concerned is the right word. I didn't really want to share this because I had a moment today that was really hard for me. So, Kev, Matt sent me a Facebook photo of him and I back in our mid-20s. We went to Florida. So Matt, myself, shout out to a couple of my old friends. We all went to Florida and we raged. We partied, okay? We went to the beach all day, every day with a 30 rack. We went out every evening. And it was in hindsight, it's all relative. Back then, that didn't seem that weird. Now it's like we raged. We partied hard. And I saw the photo that he sent me. And I know why he sent it. He sent it because it's like, whoa, look how far we've come. Because he was at Next Level Live and he was dressed to the nines in a suit. You know, he's got multiple properties now and he's a business owner now and we are too. And it's like, okay, wow, we've evolved so much. And I saw that photo and I was like, ugh. I had that moment of like, okay, now there's two ways to look at this. Couple of guys in their mid-20s trying to have fun, trying to figure out life, trying to figure out who they are, running amok in Florida. Vacation, rah, right? And that was back when I was in corporate. That was back when I had way more money than I knew what to do with, so I paid for a lot of everybody's stuff. And we just went off the rails, for lack of better phrasing. So part of me is like, has reverence for that of, okay, I partied, I had a ton of fun for sure. I definitely made some poor choices that weren't best for my health, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health. But I also am not going to have the midlife crisis in my 40s if I never had any fun. I remember there's a young man in college that I remember telling him, like, I'll keep it anonymous, but I remember saying, like, you're going to regret this. This is college. You don't do anything like other than sit and play video games. Come out with us. I remember I was trying to be, maybe I'm more future oriented with other people, but I remember saying, like, you might regret this because you're not going to go explore. You're not exploring. You're staying in your dorm all day, every day. You might regret this. When you're 50, you might have a midlife crisis and go, I never had any fun in my teens, in my 20s. Mm-hmm. And so anyways, I took that pendulum too far. Don't get me wrong, right? Okay, seriously. But I had this moment with myself today of like, okay, I'm proud of that and embarrassed by that simultaneously. I'm proud of the fact that I'm not going to look back one day and say, wow, Alan, you never really ran amok. You never really went off the rails. You never really explored life. But I'm also looking back going, those were not the most optimal choices, right? There's Captain Morgan beers in the background, and you can definitely see the ego in Matt and I. We were broing out pretty hard back then, and we were both, we thought we were in shape, but we weren't, eating like crap, drinking alcohol, that kind of thing. And so I think that what I wanted to share was that, which is perfect is stupid. It always has been and it always will be. It's not real, and it's a perspective. The perfect song, the perfect movie, whatever. It's all a perspective. So perfect is a perspective. Getting better, though, I do think is everything. And imagine the opposite. Imagine I look back at that photo and I'm like, wow, I used to be in such great shape. I used to have my stuff together. I used to, be reading books and be making good choices. Of course I'm going to look back and be embarrassed. You're almost supposed to be embarrassed. Mm. And I do this at speeches all the time. I say, think of something unintelligent you did when you were in high school. And everyone has one. Immediately they all have one. It's like you would never do that again. Why? Why would you never do that again? Because now you are more aware, more conscious, more hyper-conscious of the long-term detriments of those choices. And you're wiser now. You're supposed to be wiser now. And so hopefully that lands. Perfect is stupid. Getting better is everything. If you look back and you're embarrassed like I am, to bring it back to the listener, there's a way to hold the duality of, okay, I was taking messy action. I gave myself permission to be imperfect, and maybe I was off the rails at times, but I've become better because of it, and I am getting better every day. And I think that that's really what matters. And I had this moment earlier, and it's interesting because we're doing this episode. I didn't even know we were doing this episode. But I had this moment earlier of some people don't actually get that much better. Some people look back at a photo like that, and that's still their life. I grew up with some people who are the same in their 50s as they were in their 30s. And honestly, that makes me sad. It genuinely makes me sad. Because, obviously I'm biased here, but I think personal growth is everything. You're not supposed to be the same. You're not supposed to be the same at 50 as you are at 15. You know what I mean? Can you imagine a 50-year-old, 15-year-old? I've seen them. It's brutal. Right? It's not, you're not getting better. So I say, perfect, get rid of it completely. Messy action is everything, but try to get better.
I absolutely love book club. It is my favorite way to start the weekend. We talk about the chapter that we read previously, and it made a big difference in my life and the beginning of my journey of self-development. And it is a very kind and welcoming community. And it's a great space where if you want to just sit and listen, you're able to, but there's also a lot of space for discussion and questions. I have nothing but good things to say about book club.
Well, this is the other thing too that I would add to all that. And I think you and I are not on the opposite ends of this, but one of the pieces of giving myself permission to be imperfect is it's also allowed me to give other people that too. Where I now understand at a greater level, I'm struggling and it's hard for me to be consistent. So I just imagine, well, if somebody else is struggling to a similar level, like, of course they're not going to be consistent. That makes sense. I can understand that now. I just think it's helped me with empathy. I had a really powerful conversation with somebody that reached out to me on social media, and I don't know how the conversation started, but it was something along the lines of, I heard you talking about how humbling being out of shape has been. They didn't say being out of shape, but for you being out of shape, how humbling that's been. And for the first time ever, I'm actually able to see life through their perspective because they've struggled with weight loss before. It's like, interesting. I won't say I haven't been able to empathize because I've always tried to empathize, but I've never really been able to understand. And now
At least not to this extent.
Not to this extent. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And now it's like I can kind of feel through my own perception what you're talking about because I've been struggling to just stay afloat. The last thing I'm trying to do is build. I'm not worried about building a castle. I'm just worried about keeping what I have. And sometimes barely that. It's like, interesting. Okay. So I think that too, when you give yourself the permission to be imperfect, it also allows you to give others the permission to be imperfect. Now, here's the fine line. Obviously, imperfect is personal and there's a sliding scale for that. And it doesn't mean you should accept bad behavior, negativity, or any of that toxicity. You shouldn't accept that. But I just think understanding that you can't ever put, I won't say you can't ever. It's a dangerous game to put higher expectations on others than you have of yourself.
Definitely.
And I think a lot of us, sometimes you need the kick in the butt to say like, look, I'm struggling right now. I'm going to give myself a little bit of an out, that. But again, it's such a fine line. It's so personal.
Such a fine line.
Yeah, it's so specific. I have this with you, and then I'm recording podcast growth with you, and I don't have anything scheduled for the rest of the day. I am jazzed. I am so happy because that is like the first time I can actually take a breath in what feels like months. Now, I want to be imperfect. I'm going to watch TV like I am. I'm going to put my phone away. I sent a very challenging email to somebody today, so like I'm all over the place. I'm dealing with it. But that's what imperfect means to me now. Back when we first started this, imperfect was something completely different. Imperfect was like, yeah, just do your one coaching call and then you're done for the day. Like if you're stressed out, whatever, or order pizza if you feel like you deserve it.
But in fitness, you held yourself to a higher standard.
100%.
That's the thing.
100%.
So it's so interesting how all of this has to do with wherever your standard is. And what I would say is you can't want results that are above your standard you're willing to hold.
Yeah.
And that's something that you have to realize too. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Kev, but
good.
we're gonna do an episode on this. So it's gonna, I don't know the title yet, Kevin doesn't either, but it's gonna be You Can't Want the Pros Without the Cons. Something like that. Kev can't want to run a business that has a $50,000 month like we did last month, and then also want to watch movies in the middle of a weekday. But yet people actually think that that's like a thing. And don't get me wrong, it can be way later.
I don't think you can't want it. I think you can't expect it.
Okay, that's a fair assessment.
Right? Because I think that's what everybody wants. I would love that. That'd be awesome. It'd be great. Imagine I call you up on a Tuesday. It's like, hey man, you want to watch Top Gun? I'm going to grab Subway. I'm on the way out. Like that'd be great. Not for you because you're different. But for me, it's like, absolutely. Yes.
Really?
100%. Of course. I want more for doing less, of course, but I just know it's not realistic.
Not in the beginning of the bow tie, which is a whole nother conversation. Yeah. But how do I make that land in a very quick way? Okay, I have a mentor who grinded for 25 years in his career, was the first one there, last one to leave. Now he has millions and millions of dollars in his bank account. Now he, is on the golf course in the Bahamas or wherever. He's just always somewhere nice and warm on a golf course. And now his hard work is doing push-ups on the green, which he texted me about. The thing is, though, is you can't want the millions of dollars in your bank account without the 25 years of grinding.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say you can't, but you probably shouldn't. I think that's a really dangerous game. It's disempowering.
Yeah,
it's very disempowering because you're just going to spend the rest of your life disappointed with yourself unconsciously, or you're going to have to ego up and put on a facade that's not real.
Yeah.
And so anyways, and also I think it's the climb. We always hear it's not about the destiny, it's about the journey. There's a problem with that because the destiny you choose in advance dictates the journey. the Hobbit movies, the first one's called An Unexpected Journey, and it's a book as well for those who love the books. The journey is because of the destiny that they're going for. You're not just going to go on a journey just for a journey. Honestly. But wanting to climb Mount Everest is great. Who you become in order to be able to climb Mount Everest. Have you seen the documentary, The 14 Peaks? It's on Netflix. I haven't seen it either, but I watched the trailer. You know how Netflix, if you hover over it, like the trailer starts showing?
That's how they get you.
Oh, I know. They're good. I was like 14 Peaks. Apparently it takes 7 years. He does it in 7 days or 7 months or something. I don't know. But it's like, whoa, super interesting and inspiring. This dude is crazy. But who he had to become as a man to be able to do that, that's what I have reverence for.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the goal, you won't face the challenges, therefore you won't have the growth. And so if you want personal growth, you're going to have struggle. And so you have to want pros, you have to accept the cons that come with the pros, then you have to take messy action along the way, which is what this episode's about. Give yourself permission to be imperfect while also holding a standard that gets you there eventually. It's this whole thing. Life is really complex. It's so challenging to communicate it simply. I wrote this down. Where do you need to take more messy action? Where do you need to let yourself be more imperfect? I haven't written a blog post in a month and a half. At least a month. I literally hammer a 0 on my peak performance tracker every single day. I am in the habit of just not writing. There was a time when I was writing every day. I need to get back there. I'm being imperfect on my way back there, but we never miss an episode.
Yeah.
Right. So where are you holding the line and where are you letting the line slip? And it's up to you. No one's going to police these things for you. An honest man or honest woman's pillow is their peace of mind. I like that quote. When your head hits the pillow at night, are you fulfilled with the way you're pursuing imperfection?
This is what I would say. One-liner. Hopefully for the ages. Every time I say this, I butcher it and it goes horribly wrong and I disappoint everybody. But this is what I would say. The goal is never to be perfect. The goal is to increase the quality of your imperfection. Holy
That's
yes.
strong.
Strong,
That's
right?
strong. That's strong.
This was my thought. And last thing, because you have to go, you have a call. But I texted Alan last night. I sent him an audio. And I was like, hey, man, I feel like the final wave of overwhelm and stress has kind of rolled over. I feel okay. I feel like I can start building again. So what would you advise me to do in fitness? Like just from an outside perspective, should I gain weight or should I lose weight? And he was like, you're fat. You're kind of fat. No, he didn't say that. I'm just kidding. He said, honestly, based on where you are, I would probably take like the next 5 months and do a cut and lose weight, basically. And I was like, gosh, damn. I was really hoping you were going to go the other way with that one. Okay? Because I had the ice cream ready. I was like, he's going to go with gain weight, get strong. Okay, this is going to be great. But I had the conversation with myself of, okay, the fact that I haven't been working out as consistently, yeah, it sucks, right? It sucks. But I mean, I did 11 calls the other day. The quality of my imperfection is I still went to the gym 12 times last month. I know that's not great for my standard, but it's 12 times. It's not like I haven't been going at all. It's not like I haven't been doing mobility. I'm going to physical therapy for $90 a whack. Like I'm trying to get better. It just isn't to the speed that I would like. So that's that's really the connection for me for this episode is you will never be perfect. Ever, 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 and you should never expect to be. And nobody around you should expect you to be perfect either. But you can always increase the quality of your imperfection, aka you can make mistakes in a more aligned way, or make mistakes with less of a downside, or make mistakes by slowing progress instead of not making any. That's really the ultimate goal of that's I'm glad it connected in that way for this episode.
What's ironic too is that back when you were at your peak of bodybuilding, of physical greatness, for lack of better phrasing, when you were above your standard, honestly, I don't think you ever were above your standard. That's the interesting thing.
Maybe.
Even when you were, I saw a video of you doing dips with 3 plates or something, which is
135.
135 pounds strapped around your waist. No, dude, I was doing dips yesterday.
Oh, no, same.
No
I
way.
break.
I'm going to rip my shoulder off.
Yeah, it ended up like Woody. Like
Yeah.
Toy Story.
I got the belt. Just the belt. That's
broken.
it. No, yeah, just the belt. Throw 5 on there. You got any 5s for the kid? But that's the thing. Even back then, you still weren't perfect.
No.
You probably didn't even think that much of it. Isn't that weird? That's the human condition. The moment we hit a bar, we raise it. And that's the best it gets. You're never going to... When I was in the best shape of my life, I was in the best shape of my life pursuing far better. And back then, Kevin actually used to say, like, dude, you didn't show up on point for that photo shoot. You didn't call me fat, but you said, like, you were holding more body fat than you should have.
Based
and
on
now
your
we
standards.
look back at those photos, and it's like, oh my God, I was in great shape, Kev, you know?
Well, I
But
think the
that's
question
thing.
is...
It's that duality.
And
Yeah.
have your standards changed? That's the other interesting thing is like...
Unfortunately, no.
Right. So that it's almost like I think I was right then because even
were.
back then you're like,
Of course.
I'm not nearly in as good a shape as I should be. It's like, oh,
I know.
I'm going off your standards. But yeah,
I know.
it's interesting. It's a very, very challenging thing to like understand, but you have to understand it within yourself by trying to test out what does it mean to be imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
That where are you pushing the boundaries? Where are you heavy on the accelerator? Where are you hitting the brakes? Where are you just coasting? It's just it's a self-awareness thing.
The height of the goal will dictate the standard, and then the imperfection that you need to give yourself grace for will get more and more challenging as you get closer and closer and closer to the goal. And here's the thing. Once you get to the goal, you're just going to create a bigger goal.
Yeah.
I coach a lot of people. The moment they hit their goal, what's the next goal? Awesome. Great. Celebrate. Awesome. What's next? What's the next mountain to climb? That's the human condition. That's life. It's much better than being stuck. It's much better than not trying to be better. It's much better than not going to the gym at all. Everything we want in life is a byproduct of something higher, something bigger, something greater than ourselves. I believe that wholeheartedly, but that's a different episode. So,
Next Level Nation. I actually did a podcast breakthrough session today with somebody who is in our last round of group coaching. Shout out to Kevin. Kevin is one of the nicest humans I've ever met in my entire life. If you are listening to this podcast and you are a podcaster, do not forget, besides this, I also coach a lot of podcasters. I coach more podcasters than anybody else in terms of like my clients. So if you are somebody who wants help with your podcast, if you ever have any questions, comments, you're curious about podcasting, just reach out. I'm happy to jam on all things podcasting. And I know a lot of people who listen to this show go on to start their own. So I am happy to help in any way I can.
when I was a young lad, a wee lad, I played a game called Ocarina of Time, Zelda, on the N64. Kevin also played this game, true?
Of course. My mom beat it. My mom mastered it.
Did she?
She cheated, though.
See, this is what I'm going to talk about. Yeah. So all my friends beat the game before I did, and I was like, I don't understand. And for me, that was really hard. They bought the strategy guide.
That's, of course.
I got stuck on the water temple, and so they bought the strategy guide, which had all the answers to all the puzzles and all the stuff. That's what Kevin is for podcasting. We have failed forward and taken messy action and been imperfect. I'm not saying that you're not going to have to be imperfect and take messy action too. I'm saying that if you reach out to Kevin, he can help you. He can be your strategy guide.
Appreciate that.
So that's what we'll call it. Strategy guide podcast coaching.
I like it.
I'm kidding. Also, we talk about habit tracking all the time on this. We were on group coaching on Tuesday, and all of group 10 is being onboarded onto the app. We have an app called Optimal. It's a habit tracker. If you want to start tracking habits, you can start small, 3, 6, 9, eventually work your way up. 3 habits, very simple. We have an onboarding video, and it's a great app. I use it every single day. Kev, I think you've been using it. I'm sure.
Behind, but yes, I have to catch up, but I have been using it consistently for however long, yeah.
If you go to my Instagram or Facebook story, you can see a little preview. I track my tracking, which is interesting. But I post it every single day. I think I'm 305 or so days into tracking every day on the app Optimal. So if you want to join us and start becoming a habit tracker, that link will be in the show notes. And we hope you join us.
Next Level Nation tomorrow for episode number 1308. I'm excited for this one. We haven't talked about this in a minute. Understanding your intuition. What is intuition? What does it mean? How do you feel it? I'm very excited for that one. We haven't talked about that in a minute. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Go be imperfect. Next Level Nation.